What's up, guys? Syntax here. I've actually gotten a lot of requests for people to check out my units that I use, the runes, and what I use kind of for RTA. I know it's a lot different, and I talk about that a lot in my streams, that it's a lot different from the other stuff that's out there in terms of how you rune and what you want to bring. So we're just going to kind of go over everything that I use right now and how they're built. I do have certain mobs that I use for very specific instances, but we'll just kind of, my goal is to show you what I primarily use in RTA and the thought process that goes behind why and how I rune them that way. So first off, Cam. And if you see me talk a lot about Cam, you'll notice that I don't like to use her. I think she's not the greatest of the RTA units, and the reason why is because depending on how you build her, she really doesn't do enough damage out of the gate. As that timer counts down, though, she does. It starts adding up, but initially her damage is too low, and she just kind of sits like a bump on a log. Uh, what you want to do, though, if you tried to build her like really high attack, then she's really a lot squishier, even with her passive, and she can kind of, a lot of those high damage cams can be one shot by Sierra, which people love to counter cam with Sierra in RTA. So right now the build I'm rocking is primarily, and the primary use I have for her is to counter Zeros comps. She's actually, when I throw this out, she's banned most of the time. So this, I normally what I do, because a lot of people like to throw those Zeros, Lucian, Wind Fairy King, whatever out, and I will use Cam to counter that. What it allows me to do is I count on them to ban Cam. If they don't, it's a lot easier because she can pretty much solo, as long as they don't have a healer, she can solo most of them. And you really want to aim for high defense. If you look on my runes, like I definitely shoot for a lot higher of a defense on the subs and stuff. Speed too. Minimum right now, I want her about 90, 93, and I normally do. I'm going to swap a few runes out on her, so I wouldn't say this is like the ultimate build, but I found myself using her way less, and it's primarily to counter those Zeros comps, and she's banned 99% of the time anyway. So that's kind of, what I'm going with as far as Cam's concerned. I don't think she has a lot of other uses outside of RTA, or outside of that specific instance in RTA. She has a lot of uses outside of RTA in regular arena, Guild War, everything. But in terms of RTA, she's mainly used as a good counter to Zeros. And when you talk about countering Zeros, you want to counter it with units that have passives, because Zeros is going to reset all your cooldowns. So the way to kind of beat those Zeros comps, even if they're faster, and most of them are faster than me even, is to bring a lot of passives. And we'll go over what else I like to use. Now, Annabelle's kind of my jack of all trades, and she's actually not completely ruined all the way. I have her close, though. I have another rune I'm going to swap, and she's going to need some power-ups on her runes, but my goal is to get her resist around 93, I think, with this new rune. And the other stats, her speed will be up to, I want her at least 120 plus on Vio, and I'm going to go with Endure. Now, I was using Nem on Annabelle, but the big problem with Nemesis that I've noticed in RTA, and when one of my guildies kind of brought to my attention, is that you're using a lot of defense buffs in RTA, and that kind of counters the effect that Nemesis has, because you're not dropping that much in health when you have a defense buff up. So we're starting to swap out our Nemesis sets for, Endure. Resist is king. I'm starting to find, especially on your cleanses. So we're starting to kind of, move towards that, where certain units are going to have really high resist, because it's going to be difficult, and you're going to need them up as much as possible. I like to use Annabelle against the Zeros comps too. So if you've got one of those, you've also got another counter for those Zeros comps. I did pull a Chow, but he's not ruined yet. He will be. Probably focus him on the next one. I'm going to put the date of this, and like a lot of other top players, I swap my runes constantly. A lot of the units I'll show you tonight, I pretty much solidified their runes for RTA at this point, but there's a few, like the first two we just said, I'm still kind of moving stuff around. So, if you guys ever check these, if I do these every month or two, these rune unit and rune showcase, you can kind of see how the evolution of my runes and stats have progressed on the monsters that I use for RTA. So my next one's Raccoon. This is pretty much one of the nastier Vamp sets I have. I think he's better on Vamp for RTA. I went back and forth, and I'm not kidding when I say I went back and forth. I started with Violent, I switched to Vamp, I went back to Violent, and now I'm back to Vamp. So Rakan's been through about 3 changes already, and I've finally settled that I'd like the Vamp set better. I think it's better. This one, if you notice, it has really, really high crit damage. To me, though, Rakan actually is a much more solid unit when his defense is a lot higher. So the one downside to the set I'm using now is that it has a low defense on the subs. I really, if I could get that defense up around 600, 640, I would be so much happier, because Rakan has what I like to call a natural, has kind of that innate defense buff where he's always got immunity up, so it's really difficult, if not impossible, to defense break him, and as a result, immunity is much more valuable on him. And you can kind of see I've got a pretty nice Vamp set. The other downside to this one is a few of these, like this one's got really nice speed subs, but ideally, I think I would like to have him around plus 90 to plus 95. I think he's just a little too slow, but we'll work on that. You know, if I can get 1 or 2 more good drops, high speed drops, I'll change him up. But his output's insane though. If he revenge procs a lot, it's pretty much the match. This is my revenge Verde, full revenge, and I use him only for comps that like to use cooldown reset skills like Zeros. So I will always break this thing out against someone like Fwa who loves to use Zeros, or if someone likes to use, you know, a Sec or whatever. He's a really, really good way to counter that. It took me a long time to kind of realize that this is the type of, this is the best way is a full revenge Verde to counter those cooldown resets. And the reason why is, 1, you can't reset his passive, and 2, a lot of these comps rely on having speed advantage from the get-go. This basically neutralizes that. So he's kind of the key point when I go out to try and counter those Zeros comps that are going to reset all my skills. And it's okay if they ban him, because, you know, I bring Cam or whatever else. It makes it really difficult, and it's one of the few, if not only, things that I've been able to find that will counter those speed, Zeros, Lucian, whatever. You know, and he's got, ideally, this set's pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it. Ideally, it would have a little bit more HP, but I don't think I've got the best. I don't think everything's powered up on it yet, too, because I pretty much use it for that specific setup. Moving right along, Poorna. Poorna I use for the majority of my fights. She's, if you can, and I pair her with Olivia a lot, because if you can get a defense buff and make her hard to kill, she's an insane unit. She's top tier. Poorna's biggest downside is her low base defense. And the thing with her is it doesn't matter how many defense subs you bring, because her base is so low. Like I've got almost 100% defense from subs alone on this, and it's like barely cracking 800 on that. Yeah, so she's gonna have that low defense, and what happens is that as that match progresses and that timer counts down, she starts getting to the point where just about anything can one-shot her. Even with revive, she revives right back up and is one-shot again. We're talking like weak units can one-shot her. So that's the one consideration with Poorna. Like, it's a great unit, but you really want to pair it with something that can kind of deal with, help you deal with some of the damage that it's going to be taking later on. I'm really happy with my Poorna. I don't think it needs any more speed. I don't think it needs any more attack power. I'm really cool. If you ever watched me fight with this thing a lot, which it's a nasty unit, and I've got mine runed really well. It crits on everything. It's like a Theo in the sense that it'll crit on water pretty much all I pretty much count on it to crit on water at this point, because it almost never doesn't crit. And I really like the high crit on, you know, I have another rune set where I can get a little bit more speed but drop down to about 80 crit, and it's a noticeable difference. That 12 extra crit really is noticeable on my Poorna right now. This is one of my favorite runes that I have. That was a legend rune I got that got almost perfect roll. It got two perfect rolls into crit, and then almost 2 perfect rolls into speed. So, and then I used a legend grinder on it. So this is a nasty rune. This is one of my all-time favorite runes. Speaking of that, probably my current favorite rune right now is this thing, which is awesome. Just an insanely nice rune. But I think I'm gonna swap that over to Chow. I think when Chow's skilled up, if you guys watch, I pulled a Chow on the Transcendence scroll. I'm going to be swapping a lot of Cam stuff over. Chow is pretty much everything that Cam isn't. It hits hard right out of the gate. It only gets stronger as the match goes down, and it heals a lot. It's just a little bit squishier, but it's still, you know, because you can rune it for HP and stuff, it's still just an insanely strong unit. So I'm kind of psyched to get Chow kind of up and running. That's my second Poorna. I actually have 2 Poornas. And I think I just realized that I have my... Yeah, I got my wings on the wrong Poorna. So we'll have to switch that up. Alright, moving right along. What do I use? Okay, so this has been my newest addition to my rotation. You know, we were talking about the Zeros stuff. Because you fight a lot of Zeros, you want a comp specific to handle Zeros comps. And Kuhn's my other kind of answer to that. I farmed one out. Mine's on insane rune. When I say that every single rune he's got was a legend, I'm not exaggerating. I believe every rune he's got. The only thing is it's not on violent, because violent's kind of useless for him. But every rune he has was a legend rune with really nice rolls. So he's insanely runed right now. I think he's close to perfect. And people say, oh, you got Nem. I want Nem on this thing. And the reason why you want Nem is because his shield doesn't automatically go to him. And if you fight these Zeros comps, sometimes what they'll do is they'll pair a Wind Fairy King or something, right? That'll reset the attack bar. Then they'll blast you and they'll take you down to like half health. Well, he's on Nem then. He's cycling faster. He's throwing that shield up on the lowest unit as fast as he can. And he's beefy too. And I love to pair him. And this is why I pair him, Verde, and, you know, like a Vela or a Raccoon, right? Because of all the passives and the immunity or whatever to counter Zeros. And then you can use a Fire Lead on top of that with those units. It makes it a very, very, very strong counter to those Zeros Lucian comps. I mean, this is really difficult to kill. And you can see, like, these are all pretty nutty runes. They're not maxed all the way. But these were all legend runes. Like, I'm using a speed slot too, and he still almost has 40,000. I mean, with Tower, he's well over 40. And those shields he puts up are insane. Plus, his defense is so high that, even, you know, with that shield, it just makes that shield even stronger. And that's what I really like, because I'm one of these fans. A lot of people don't care about defense, and I do. I care about defense greatly. I like to stack it on all my units. I think it's just one of the most underrated, most important stats. There's a lot of ways, you know, the biggest downside to defense is defense break. And there is a lot of ways to kind of overcome that. And if you can overcome that, defense becomes hands down the best stat. HP is right there with it, but defense becomes so insanely valuable. And a lot of people don't kind of want to make that connection with the defense. But in terms of RTA, it is definitely the most important stat, especially if you're going to play the long game as that timer counts down. But even on, you know, whatever units, it's a good stat, even for other things. So I've got a Raccoon. I haven't really used him yet, and I'm actually going to switch this set off of him, I think, because I don't use him right now, and this set's so nice. It's such a nice, you know, this is like a good Orion set that I've got on him right now. It's got really high defense, really high HP. I got a really nice Swift drop last week, which got a triple roll. This is my first triple roll into a speed for a Swift. I've got a lot of doubles, obviously, but yeah, he's just got such a nice set that's not being put to use. I did try to kind of work Raccoonian because he's got that passive too. I think Raccoonian has a use, but I think it's going to be against more the Sec Okanos comps that you see a lot of people running or combos of, or Bastet, because they have heavy debuff and control, which, you know, Raccoon is really good about kind of stripping that. I think his passive's a little weak in the sense that it doesn't do enough, I don't think. And I have used him a little bit. I've tested him quite a bit, and I've just never... I have a Agility that uses him right now that's doing very well. I think he's in the top 50, but I can't get it to work for me. If you can, by all means, I think it's a great unit, but... Alright, moving right along, Vela. I pulled Vela at the beginning of December and really kind of shored up a lot of my weaknesses that I was having. My Vela's actually right where I want him. He's pretty much, you know, I asked Barian the other day, like, because I think this is like his most wanted monster. Like, if you were to get one, how would you rune it? And he said, I think I would farm dragons until I could get a set on him violent at about 170 speed, which is insane, because his base is so low that even just getting 130 is a little bit of a chore. But he's got a really nice set on him, and I'm happy. I don't need mine at 170. If I wanted him at 170, I would switch him to Swift. I think there is a use for a Swift Vela. I don't think anyone's really doing it, but I think there is a definite use for a Swift Vela. And I think people should, you know, if you're having problems, I kind of use my Olivia in that place because she can boost up whoever, and I use her to boost up Vela. But if I didn't, I would definitely have him on a Swift set. Even though I think Nymphs, because to me, it's not the immunity that's so valuable. Like, yeah, his immunity is great, and it's 3 turns, which is really, really good. And 3 turn is way, way better, hands down, than 2 turn. And the reason why is on a violent proc, you'll proc out of a 2 turn, but on a 3 turn with the violent proc, you'll still have that effect up. So the problem is that I don't care for immunity that much. I was already rank 1 prior to me pulling him, and I never used immunity prior to me pulling him, and I pulled beta after him, so I ended up getting 2 really nice immunity mobs. It's the cleanse that's more important, that I think the effect of cleansing off those debuffs is what makes him valuable. And the boost is really nice too, but I don't use boosters either. I try not to. This is why, like, you're not going to see me showcase Orion, because I don't use him. I don't use Orion ever in RTA. It's the cleansing, though, that is really what makes him so valuable in RTA over immunity. People think, oh, I'm going to bring immunity and it's going to prevent. No, it doesn't. Cleanse is much more valuable, which is why Annabelle's a much better unit. Annabelle doesn't even have immunity, just has the cleanse, and I think she's a fantastic unit. So that kind of, that's my thought process with that. Also, he's a defense scaling monster, which is amazing. So, and he's got a nice set on him. He's got some like this rune I think I've had this rune since the very first year I was playing this. He's got some of my older nice ones. This is probably one of my top 5 favorite runes too. This is a near perfect rune with the rolls. It got was this legend? I can't remember if this was a legend or a hero. You don't get that many, even with someone like me or even Varian or whatever, you don't get that many really nice legend drops. So you tend to remember them when you do, and the rolls go your way. This is an awesome rune too, and this got some nice roll. It didn't get high rolls, but it's named, right? So it got that, and it got a perfect roll on resist. But it's just a unique rune in the sense that it's got high crit damage but no crit, but that's fine because you can build it with stuff. And this is the other thing about Viola. He gets that crit on Awake. He's just he's an awesome unit for RTA, and he has a lot of uses. I like him because he can serve multiple roles in terms of damage, utility, support. His one downside is he doesn't heal. I was using Delphoy. I'm not using her now, but if you've got a Delphoy, I'll do a little bit more about her in the when I do an underrated unit type talk about RTA, because she's definitely has uses. I don't use Chisoon or Chasen, if you ever hear me talk about her in stream. Sierra I do use a lot. She's an awesome unit. I've got her on Revenge. I love it. First skill, she crits, boosts her right back up. Mine needs to be a little bit faster, though. She's not fast enough. She needs to be, I want to say 125, plus 125. I'm getting there, and I definitely have room to do it. Like, this one needs power up, and I've actually even got a 5-star on her. If you look, she's got a this was a legend 5-star that got really nice rolls, obviously. But yeah, that's a legend. She's got some nice runes on her. This was a hero. I think I crafted this one. This was a good one. The problem I have with Sierra, and a lot of people have, which is why I don't necessarily always whip her out. I tend to like to take Poorna more than a Sierra anyway. But Sierra has uses. The problem that I have with her is that even with, my accuracy is 71, but it wouldn't matter if it was 80 because I've had her up to 80, 85. She still will miss bombs, and she will miss them enough where it's annoying. It's not really cost me a lot of matches because she's fast, but it's definitely like it's something you have to factor in. Like, it's not like a Poorna who's got a really high crit or whatever that you can count on there being steady DPS from the get-go. Sierra, you can definitely miss and whiff, and when she tends to whiff on her bombs, she tends to miss them all in a row. So it's like, oh, you're not going to get it the next turn. You're going to whiff 1, 2, 3 in a row, and it'll definitely hurt, and it makes the matches a lot more difficult. So I do use her a lot because she naturally counters so much stuff, and the mechanic is ignore defense, right? Yeah, I mean, that's fantastic unit in concept overall, but that's the one down, and every unit, no matter how good they are, has a downside, and that's kind of Sierra's downside, is she will miss bombs, and usually when she misses, it's at the most inopportune times. My Eladriel, or Elad, if you ever hear me talk in stream, kind of my next this is probably my favorite unit. I think he's the best revive for RTA. I'm sure a lot of people are going to argue with me on that point, but here's why. Because his revive is a full reset. Uh, and if you build him like I built mine, which is insanely high defense, even as fast as he is, he's got insanely high defense and resist. I mean, look at that resist, it's beautiful. But he basically, even if his health gets cut in half, which it does, it's so difficult to nuke him down the rest of the way because his defense and HP are still so high. I mean, you're talking about nuking down something with another 20k health on something with 1500 defense. That's like a full health of Vela, even after he revives. And the unit he brings up is back up to 100% health. I think the next best revive is Iona, which I don't have, and then after that's Beta. But Beta has downsides, and I think overall as a unit, Elad's a little bit better than Beta, and this is why. Beta doesn't have a cleanse; she just has immunity. And what was I just saying about the cleanses and stuff? It's the cleanse is really what's desirable. He's got a stronger heal, and he's got a stronger revive, and strip's more desirable. I think Beta's got a strip too, but it's a weaker strip. It's a 50% as opposed to a 75%. So I think overall, and we're almost splitting hairs here. In the top ranks, it does make a difference, but I think Elad's slightly better. I will use Beta, though, over him in a few different scenarios, and it really just kind of depends. But when I want, say, double immunity, I'll bring Beta and, pair it with Bella. But ideally, I like Elad a little bit better as my res, and he's my kind of best rune monster, I would say. He's got a Nem set on. And he's probably got my top tier runes, in terms of my top tier defensive runes. I do like Nem on him, and I won't switch that one out, even though I'm switching it on a couple others. And the reason why is because if he goes down, the match becomes infinitely more harder. So I want him to move as fast as he possibly can. If that defense buff isn't on him, even if that, and there are scenarios where he gets taken down very quickly to the low points of his health where he's that Nem brings him to turn up next and he's able to full heal back up. So yeah, I think he's pretty much set. I don't ever plan on changing any of these runes. Even though he's got such a nice rune set, I don't plan on changing any of these runes out on him. So he's pretty much rock solid. He's great for Guild War too. So if you build one like this, he's got a high base speed. This is 245 speed on Violent before towers. Then we got Hathor. Everyone's seen me use it. She doesn't make it through very much anymore, but I think pretty much everyone's wised up to Hathor's being Hathor's pretty much not something you want to let through. But I'm sorry guys, I'm tired. She's a great unit overall, and this is my only quad roll Violent that I have right now. I've got several triples, but this is my only quad. That's a good one too. She's got high accuracy. She's got a lot. The only difference between, like, say, her and my Elad is that her base defense is awesome. And this is why these Dairy Queen, I call the DQs Dairy Queens, are so desirable for RTA, because their base stats are insane. So as long as you get good subs on these, you can really take these units a long, long way. And these are, this is kind of what you're shooting for on it. I think she's pretty much done too. I'm happy with the accuracy. I don't think I need any more. Resist's great. I love her resist leader skill. So moving right along, we got Olivia. She's on Swift. I use her to kind of get out in front. She's faster than most Orions. There are some Orions that are faster than her, but the majority of them she can get out in front, which people don't count on. So when I pull her out, she'll basically, I have two options. I can defense buff up right away, right? And that way, if people are trying to nuke me down in one round, they can't anymore. Or I can use this boost to boost up someone else. So say the match starts and I notice the other team doesn't have any immunity, well, I can boost up Hathor and Hathor can sleep everybody next. Or say, it's something like a Zeros or whatever. She can get out first, she can boost out my Vela, and he can throw up immunity or whatever. It's super effective. The one downside is strips, obviously, but a lot of people aren't rocking strips, so that's kind of what we're dealing with. She's got a really nice runes on her. That was a craft a couple weeks ago I got. That was a triple roll in the speed hero. That was another triple roll. This is a really old rune too. Actually don't remember when I got that. I've known I've had that one forever. That one's like first year type rune. I don't really use Ritesh. I think there is a place for Ritesh. I don't use mine yet. He's got more of a Guild War build on him, so yeah, I wouldn't worry about that. I don't use Gemini anymore. He's not really built. Let's see. Huadam I do use, and my Huadam is actually pretty beasty. I'm kind of copying, if you've ever seen Corrosives, his is like plus 37 or 38 right now. Mine will get there. I'm trying to get him there. What I'd like to get in here are 2 guard runes, right? So one, I'm going to bump his defense up more, and I need 2 guard runes that will have a really high HP sub, or HP slot too, with a high defense sub, in resist, because I want to keep his resist at 100. I think that's important. But the nice thing about Huadam is if you can get him, yeah, his HP being high is important, but so is his defense being high, because it makes him that much harder to knock down that HP pool. So eventually my goal is to have him as close to plus 40,000 health as possible, with at least 700-800 defense. That would make him just, to me, top tier. And I think the way to do that's 2 more guard runes in there. You can do Despair too. You're not gonna get the stats where you want him. To me, I think he's more valuable as a stat monkey than a Despair unit. But Despair can work too, especially if you're using him to counter those Xeros comps, because he can always stun proc on them. Vela I use, but I only use for bomber comps. I'll break her out, and she's almost always banned, because they know those bomber comps like to set bombs down, but they're 2-turn bombs that have to be cleared. So I like to pull out Vero, and they'll ban her, because they know they can't set bombs down if they let her through. I've actually had a few of the bomb people let her through, and then they just don't do anything, which is silly to me. If you're gonna bring a bomb comp, you should never let this thing through. It doesn't matter. I mean, he doesn't do anything else. He's low damage right now, and he's actually not even that fast, but he does have really high defense. So this thing's really, really painful to kill, because if you put defense buff on it, and it's on Nemesis, if you put defense break on it and try to kill it, then it's just extremely difficult. I think we're getting toward the end here. I don't use... So that is my last unit, and I just got her, and I just finally finished max skilling her, and she's on Nem, which I might switch out. I haven't decided yet. I'm not done with her, because I did just get her, but I think her speed's about where I want it. If anything, what I would try to do is put a HP slot 2 on her with a really, really high speed sub, and still try and maintain that plus 110-ish speed, but then having another HP rune in there. I don't think I need her as fast as my Eladriel, but we'll see. She's got a really nice base defense too, which I'm not really utilizing. I could use better defense subs, so I've been farming. She obviously needs power-ups on her runes. This one's getting swapped out to Annabelle because of that resist, and I'm trying to build a higher resist Annabelle. That's a nice one I got a couple months ago, 2 months ago maybe. I think I got a double roll into speed on that one, and then I only got a +3 on the power up, so we'll revisit that one. Yeah, so that's pretty much right now what I'm using, and kind of how it's runed. That's gonna change eventually as we progress with more matches, and there'll be other units that I'll bring along and stop using. So it'll be nice, if I put these out every month or two, that you guys can kind of see the progression where I go from one end to another in terms of units and how I use them and rune them. Thanks for watching. Hope you guys learned something.